Hello, Dragon Keeper 19600 here, and welcome to another Les Mis editorial, where I just offer commentary on various things about Les Miserables and its various adaptations. So today, I thought I'd open a can of worms and talk about something that kind of relates to the last chapter, seeing as the last chapter was titled Javert, focused a lot on Javert, and that's all I need. I thought I'd talk about something that a lot of other people have talked / complained / defended. What did I think of Russel Crowe as Javert? Yep. I know I'm probably going to disagree with a lot of people on this. A lot of people aren't going to like my points. And I accept that, But this is still something I feel like I want to talk about. And I was actually really excited to talk about. So let's get down to it. So for those of you not in the know, Russel Crowe plays Javert in the 2012 Les Miserables film. Out of all the casting choices, his was probably, and still is, the most contested. People are saying all kinds of things, that he's too stony-faced, that he didn't get the character right, and that he can't sing. It's gotten to the point where he's been made fun of by pretty much everyone. Nostalgia Critic, The Onion, and even fellow cast member Sacha Baron Cohen. Did I pronounce that right? Oh well. They've all taken a crack at him. And yeah, I can sort of see why that is. I mean, yeah, it's kind of an unusual choice. How many people, when asked to think of their ideal Javert, would say Russel Crowe before this movie came out? In fact, how many people would even say that nowadays? And it's definitely a different portrayal than we're probably used to. But what did I think of it? Well, my opinion's a little more complicated. So let's just go through some of the criticisms first. First of all, he can't sing. This has been the most insistent by everyone. And it's not like... This film is a musical, right? Les Miserables, by principle, doesn't have to be musical. Like, this is not a musical. This is a book. So this didn't have to be a problem. But they chose to have the entire film sung, pretty much with the exception of, 5 lines of dialogue total throughout the entire 2.5 hours. The entire film is sung. So this is a medium and a film where not being able to sing would be a serious problem. And you could sort of tell that out of all the actors in the film, Russel Crowe does sound kind of the most flat. For example, here's Roger Allam, who was the original Javert in the London cast.
Now bring me prisoner 24601. Your time is up and your parole's begun. You know what that means.
Yes, it means I'm free.
Now!
And here's Russel Crowe's.
Now, prisoner 24601, your time is up and your parole's begun. You know what that means.
Yes, it means I'm free.
No.
Yeah, you could sort of hear that there's a pretty big difference. And not a good one, many people would say. The second thing is that he's, doesn't really have a huge emotional range. And I've actually heard that he's like this in some other films. I haven't seen any other films that he's in. Like, I haven't seen Gladiator or anything. So I wouldn't know, but I would take their word for it. And yeah, he's very stone-faced, doesn't seem totally interested in what's going on around him. So I've heard. But really, when you get down to it, I think this performance is different. Not bad, and not spectacular, but it is different. And I think it threw people off because it's not completely what they're used to. First of all, let me talk about the singing, my own perspective on it. It's a little cringeworthy, I'm not gonna lie. That beginning scene at Toulon, which is kind of a meme, the whole "and I'm Javert" thing. Oh god, it's so awkward. It's actually, really uncomfortable. And whenever he sings loudly and boisterously, now, especially now that I have the soundtrack, I've listened to it a few times, and my opinion has been influenced by other people online. Yeah, I wince a little. Here's the thing, though. When I first saw the movie in the theater with my mom, I, didn't really notice that the singing wasn't good. I mean, call me tone deaf or whatever you want, but I honestly didn't notice. In fact, I sort of liked it. In fact, whenever he was on screen and started singing, I started swooning? Is that weird? I mean, I've been on Tumblr. It can't be that weird, but there it is. Actually, I never noticed it before, but Russell Crowe is actually really attractive. I can't believe nobody brought this to my attention. I don't even know what it is. Is it... now I think about it. Maybe it's the eyes. Something about him is just really... Anyway. So, yeah. Singing, maybe not that good, but it wasn't, like, horrendous. Maybe I'm not the best judge of this. I have no musical vocal training at all. My leg hit the desk. But, yeah. But when you compare it to some other actors, there's definitely less energy. Here's the thing, though. I think Russell Crowe acts the best whenever he's more quiet. Now, I know that sounds like a huge insult, but it's actually not. There's a lot of scenes where he, like, speaks more softly or, like, sings more softly, or even scenes where he's totally silent, and it's got a huge impact. Like, I know how bad that sounds. It sounds like I'm really insulting him, but I'm not. It's just like, he's able to get a lot of emotion across without speaking. Like, not every actor can do that. Maybe I'm projecting something, but I really don't think I am. Like, look at this scene where he sneaks into the barricade and he's trying to commingle with the other revolutionaries. Look at that smug little smile he has when he puts on that button. Yeah, you're so proud of yourself, man. You put on that little button. Oh yeah. Good work, soldier. Or how about the confrontation scene between him and Jean Valjean? As you could probably tell if you've seen this movie, Hugh Jackman is putting a lot of energy to it, to the point where he's almost drowning out Russell Crowe, who's singing much more softly. But actually, in this particular scene, I think it sort of helps push the contrast between the two. I mean, Javert and Jean Valjean are supposed to be foils, opposites. And in this particular scene, it actually comes across really well, including the singing. I think overall, this is sort of something that you could see all throughout. Whenever he's quieter, it's better. And I sort of feel like overall, a lot of people have said that Javert not singing that well is actually true to his character. Now, in some ways, I feel like that's kind of an excuse. It sort of sounds like an excuse to me. That's sort of the equivalent of saying that if if an author who's writing first-person perspective has bad grammar, some people say it's supposed to show that the protagonist isn't very smart. It's like, well, there's a way to convey that he's not smart without using incorrect grammar. You know, it just seems kind of sloppy, sort of like, oh yeah, I meant to do that. But actually, in this case, I feel like there's some sense to it. I mean, I've already said, all the other actors put in a lot of energy. Russell Crowe doesn't put in the energy into his singing, but it's more subdued, and I feel like him having that contrast actually helps set it apart. I mean, Javert isn't a character like any other. Other characters experience love, strong feelings, goals. He just kind of sees himself as a servant of the law, and nothing more. In fact, he sort of seems to be a person who lacks his own ego. And, need I remind you, like, Book Javert, kind of, I've read some of The Brick, and there's this one part where Javert in The Brick doesn't have much leisure time, and in his leisure time, he reads, books. And then it goes on to say that he hates books. He hates books, and he reads in his free time, because he doesn't know what else to do, okay? He's kind of sad. So when you get down to it, having him not sing that well actually makes sense. I remember I actually read this abridged copy of the book before I heard any of the music from the musical. And I remember the song Stars never made much sense to me, because Javert isn't the singing type. So I feel like it's totally in character for him to be singing just because everyone else is. Maybe it's an excuse, but it's a very happy excuse. Let's talk about the acting now. I already have a little bit. Let's talk about it a little bit more. As I've said, Russell Crowe is a pretty subdued actor, and especially when you played characters like Javert. Javert has sort of this reputation for being an obsessed cop. Okay, that's basically what he's portrayed as being. He swears that he'll find Jean Valjean. He's really adamant about it, and he's usually very angry and very energetic individual in a lot of adaptations I've seen. And we didn't really get that vibe from Russel Crowe. He lacks energy, and while he is obsessive to some extent, it doesn't really come across as strongly. Like, but I sort of like that better. I mean, I don't know how many of you people have read that thing, but Javert actually isn't obsessed at all with catching Jean Valjean. They just sort of keep kind of running into each other. And in that regard, actually having him not being obsessed is a little more book accurate. Now, to be fair, he is obsessed with catching him in this version, but it's sort of like he's not angrily obsessed. He's just obsessed because he's like a robot that's been programmed. And I think that's actually that's not just me projecting, okay? I've seen the interviews with Russel Crowe and Tom Hopper. This was something that they were consciously trying to get across. And yeah, like, and I actually sort of like that a little better. Like, look, here's Geoffrey Rush's Javert in the 1998 film, in the scene where he finds out that Jean Valjean is actually the mayor, and that he was right. Just watch it.
I knew it. I knew it. I knew it!
Oh man, I would not want to be around the office near him.
I knew it!
I was right! Did you hear it? Tell everyone you know, I was right! Me. Yeah, it's a little blown out of proportion, and it's actually kind of silly. But I actually sort of like the way they do it in the 2012 film. There's no blow-up, no reaction shot. Jean Valjean just goes home from the trial, and then Javert is just there. I actually kind of like that better. It shows that he's obsessed, but in a much more quiet way. And also shows kind of what a soulless individual he is. There's a description in the book that he has a heart of wood. And yeah, he's like an unmovable glacier of a human being. The description says that he has a gloomy aspect, permanent central frown. And yeah, in that regard, the casting was spot on. I mean, look at this guy. Can you see him cutting loose at a party? No. If you said yes, no. The answer is no. Now, I've talked a lot about the book and book accuracy. So is this a completely book accurate Javert? No. I'm going to say no on that one. Even though even though Russel Crowe is a little more stony-faced, and that is more accurate, I still feel like they stepped away from the book in some ways, but not necessarily in bad ways, just in different ways. There's, I think overall, they sort of made Javert a little bit more approachable and a little bit more human. Now, I know what you're thinking right now. You're saying, how can that be? I mean, all I've done is talk about how stone-faced and kind of what a dismal person he is. Well, it's just the thing, the dismal. I think there's sort of a tragic aspect to the Javert character that the 2012 film added that maybe other adaptations have missed out on just a little bit. For instance, I think it's pretty fair to say that Book Javert is a much more passionate character than maybe Russel Crowe comes across as being. Actually, if I remember the book right, Javert could be sort of a smug asshole if you wanted. He was not constantly, but this might sound weird, but Javert probably has some of the funniest lines in the entire book. He's a real deadpan snarker type, and he wasn't afraid to turn his contempt and triumph over criminals into a joke. One of my favorite lines ever is, actually I won't spoil it because I'm going to read it later, but needless to say, this guy really enjoys his job. He's very passionate about it. One line from the book says that he was a spy as other men are priests. His religion is the law, right? Javert in the film sort of lacks that passion. For what I've already said, this is a much more subdued Javert than we're used to, and that might be why a lot of people decry it as bad. There's no snarking. There's no real feeling of triumph. He's just doing what he feels like he has to. There's no personal satisfaction in it. It's just that he feels that this is right. And that really comes across. I think there are a few cases where Javert is played as more of a victim in this version than he is in a lot of others. For instance, there's the scene where he goes to arrest Fantine, and by the time he gets there, the fight is pretty much over. He only gets this one testimony from this guy who is clearly lying about what happened, saying that Fantine attacked him without provocation. And Javert, of course, totally believes his story. And in that regard, it sort of comes across as Javert is, I wouldn't say dim, but maybe sort of innocent. You know, sort of just a pawn to other people. And it isn't the first part he's messed up just by not knowing what was going on and not caring to inquire any further. The misogynistic slurs that were really ramped up in the 1998 version are also absent in this film, and that helps make him a little more sympathetic than he would be normally. Geoffrey Rush's Javert, you wanted to punch him every time he was on screen. With Russel Crowe, that deep hatred isn't really there, and it's not really there in the book either. Now, to be fair, in the book, this scene is actually played out differently, while Javert kind of hauls Fantine away. And even after he's heard from her own mouth what actually happened, he still arrests her on the grounds that the guy she attacked is a property-owning member of society and she's a hussy. So, yeah, it actually does. The 1980 version may technically be more accurate, but Russel Crowe's Javert wasn't trying to be Geoffrey Rush's Javert, and it wasn't trying to be like the book Javert. It was sort of going in its own direction, I think. There's also the fact that book Javert was billed as being very incorruptible, very pure individual. He never broke a single rule, never told a lie in his life. He had a crystal clear conscience, and he always did what he felt was the right thing. Very, very pure. But as anybody who's read Death Note knows, pure is not always good, and pure focused in a wrong direction for a misguided goal is a really, really destructive thing. Movie Javert, I think, lacks that purity because when he sneaks into the barricade, he outright lies to them about why he's there, and he actually tries to, actively fool them. Whereas Book Javert doesn't lie to them, he's just sort of there, helps out, and hopes that nobody will notice him. And the instant that someone does notice him, he immediately confesses that he's a spy. Look what Movie Javert does when Gavroche finds him out. I just love that he just tries to break for it. I don't think that's something Book Javert would do. So yeah, this Javert is a little more fallible and a little more human. I think human is the best word to describe this Javert overall. He seems more approachable, more fallible, someone who's actively trying to do the right thing, but who is constantly being thwarted. Well, not constantly, but who finds himself tripping when he's not supposed to and is getting more irritated with himself for it. There are a few extra scenes in the movie that really speak volumes. Yeah, his singing is flat. Yeah, he doesn't show that same passion that he does as the other actors do. But look at him. Look at the tears in his eyes when he's about to commit suicide. This isn't a bad actor by any means. It takes a little bit more to notice what's there. They actually changed this scene where Javert is gonna arrest Jean Valjean, and I actually really like the change. I think it shows a lot of the torment that this Javert has, where he's gonna pull the gun and he wants to shoot him, but Actually, I take that back. It's not that he wants to shoot him, it's he feels that he has to. There's a whole lot of, but I must, behind this portrayal that is portrayed really well. And there's this scene they added where he's, walking through the barricade after it's been taken, and he's looking at all the dead bodies. Oh my god, I freaking love this scene! I mean, okay. The whole suicide thing, that wasn't about Jean Valjean. It was never about Jean Valjean. The reason he lost it after he saved him is that his entire worldview was blown apart. It wasn't about Jean Valjean, it was about the law. It was about order. It was about justice. It was about the way he saw the world. And when he sees all these dead people that were killed because the justice isn't right, because it's messed up, because the system is broken, and then his life is saved by a criminal, his entire worldview is thrown into chaos. And that was portrayed so well. And then when he hits the button on Gavroche and it plays Bring Him Home in the background, I'm geeking out over a musical. That's not possible. That's not supposed to happen. But, oh my gosh, there's just way more here than I think a lot of people are giving it credit for. That's why I talked about that's why I wanted to do this particular editorial after the chapter I just read. The scene where Javert asked to be dismissed, where he tells the mayor of Montreuil-sur-Mer that he thought that he was Jean Valjean. And the reason I wanted to talk about after that scene is because Russel Crowe plays it totally sincerely. Other actors sort of played it like maybe Javert still thought that the mayor was Jean Valjean, that he was like trying to trip him up or trick him into making a mistake. But no, Russel Crowe plays it like he's totally abashed and he's totally ashamed of making what he feels to be a grievous error in his job. And I really like that. I really like that they got that right. Is the performance different? Yes. Could the movie have benefited maybe from a more energetic Javert? Probably. But I feel like there's a lot of good stuff here. And maybe a few misnotes in the songs isn't worth giving up the depth and the more subtle nuances that I think are really good. Is this the best Javert? Well, I'm not in a position to say that. I haven't seen many other Javerts. Certainly he's not the best singer. But acting-wise, I think he was great. He's not book accurate, and he's not the same as many other people's perception, but he's sort of his own unique individual, and I don't think anybody will be forgetting him. I really enjoyed his performance. I really look forward to when he's on screen. It's an interpretation like no other, and I'm really glad we got to see it. Dragon Keeper 19600, signing off.
You know nothing of Javert. I was born inside a jail. I was born with scum like you. I am from the gutter too.